I never had a girl before with much of a figure, so excuse me if I start to play with your digital display. Block. Testing, testing. One, two, and a three. Hi, let's do a movie review. Okay, so you know how horror sometimes delves into other genres, like how you could competently debate whether or not Event Horizon was a sci-fi movie or a horror movie, since a lot of sci-fi is kind of terrifying. Personally, I'm in the camp of Event Horizon being a horror movie, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, there are a lot of movies that lean harder one way or the other, like how Aliens, for example, leans more into horror. And you could argue that the sequel, Prometheus, leans more in the area of sci fi. I'm just saying that sometimes this genre has gray areas when it comes to what is or is not horror. I mean, for me, that doesn't make Prometheus, for example, any less horror. And it's not that my own personal guidelines are looser than anyone else's. It's just I don't happen to think it's a simple one-to-one comparison in a lot of cases. But that kind of brings us around to today's review. Now, whenever I have heard someone refer to this particular movie, it is always in horror movie discussions, though I kind of feel like this is the one instance where I actually debated whether or not to even review it, because for me, it reads as a sci-fi film. Conceptually, however, it does do all the things that horror movies tend to do, like subverting ideas and concepts that we've all accepted in society, and then takes those ideas and brings them right around front in all of its naked and horrifying beautiful glory. This is the kind of movie that works structurally, plot wise, as a horror film in a lot of ways that I can't really deny at the end of the day. So, without further ado, let's just jump right in. Let's just jump right into today's movie. Okay, so 2014's Ex Machina, written and directed by Alex Garland, starring Oscar Isaac, Donnell Gleeson, and Alicia Vikander. The movie opens with this guy, Caleb. He works as a programmer for a search engine called Blue Book. And today is Caleb's lucky day because he has just won a contest to visit CEO Nathan Bateman's luxury estate. And I'm sure the name similarity to a certain yuppie serial killer is no coincidence. Okay, so when we say estate, we're being really wild and loose with that term because, as Caleb very quickly finds out, Bateman's property spans miles. Like he's brought there in a helicopter and it just goes on and on and on. Like at a certain point, it had me thinking when they said estate, did they mean country? Like what the hell is all this? Like, is that Greenland? Anyway, the helicopter drops Caleb off miles away from the actual house because apparently there's no other way to get there but to walk. Caleb makes his way there in his cardigan and his slacks and his sensible shoes, and eventually he arrives at what amounts to a very fancy high-tech mansion. Wait, did I say mansion? I meant compound. And then he meets Nathan. Now, Nathan is exactly who you might imagine a douchey tech bro type might be. I mean, he's friendly enough to Caleb, inviting him in and having a beer after his workout and giving him the old "Hey, I'm your boss, but let's talk like buddies" bullshit line.
Can we just be two guys, Nathan and Caleb? Not the whole employer-employee thing?
And also, this movie was in 2014, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but considering all that's happened in the last 12 years, I did find myself wondering if if I had watched this in 2014, would I be as immediately distrustful of Nathan as I was this go round? Like, in the very least, Nathan gives off fuckboy vibes. I mean, I could actually smell the Axe body spray and cool water leaking through the screen. In any event, Caleb learns that the reason he was chosen was that Nathan needs someone to administer a Turing test for his newest invention, an android by the name of Ava. So, for all of you tech heads out there, this movie might freak you out for a bit, being that it is 12 years old. and talking about AI technology that is being developed right now as we speak. But don't worry, it gets so much worse as we go along. So Caleb is told the rules of the compound. He's given a key card that Nathan explains gives him limited access. And the way Nathan puts it, if he can't get in somewhere, it's because he's not supposed to be there. Pretty easy peasy. Like all things considered, Nathan does seem really laid back, which um I don't which kind of puts Caleb at ease in this moment. And also puts him on edge, if that's possible. So after he gets a quick tour of the place, he meets Ava for the first time. After which, he is completely bowled over by this invention of a potentially sentient being. It is a big deal because that's what we're really talking about here. Nathan wants to know if Ava is more than just circuit boards and nuts and bolts. He wants to know not only if she's indistinguishable from being a human being, but also capable of human consciousness. And this is huge. This is huge. And after talking to her, Caleb is of course locked in. Who wouldn't be? Okay, so his first night there, he's trying to sleep and he turns on the television that happens to be in his room. I imagine expecting the late show or whatever. And what he actually gets is a live feed into Ava's enclosure, which honestly is more than a little off-putting, mainly because Caleb makes it weird. Instead of like turning the monitor off and going, "Oh, this is creepy, invasion of privacy," he watches her like a creepy stalker. And like right after this happens, the power goes out and he finds that his door is locked. The next morning he asks Nathan about it, and Nathan just tells him not to trip, it's just a malfunction that's been happening. He's working on it. I ain't worried about it, you don't worry about it. Whatever. Okay, so during his week there, Caleb is to have a session a day with Ava. During the first session, everything goes pretty good. Caleb interacts with her through a glass barrier, and it kind of mimics a getting to know you kind of session. And the whole time, Caleb is stoked about all this. I mean, he's like afterwards drinking a beer, like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And she's this, that, and the other thing. And then over the course of the next few days, Caleb and Ava start getting on pretty well. I mean, she manages to convince him to share some personal details about his life, and she shares some artwork that she's been working on. Like they're like seriously bonding. And every day after every session, Caleb reports back to Nathan about his progress. Okay, so while all this is going on, Nathan has a personal assistant by the name of Kamiko, who happens to be Asian and also who Nathan says doesn't speak a word of English, which is important because what he's doing is, of course, top secret. So he could talk to Caleb while she serves him dinner or rubs his feet or whatever. And there's no chance that a super secret project will ever leak out. And not gonna lie, the introduction of Kamiko in relation to Nathan really gave me the it. And as the story goes on, it becomes really clear, really fast, that he is, in fact, having sex with her. Oh, but don't worry, it gets worse. Okay, so meanwhile, Caleb and Ava are getting on like gangbusters. Like things are going really well during their sessions. Well, one day there's a power outage. During that power outage, in that very short span of time, Ava suddenly tells Caleb, "Hey, so um, don't trust Nathan. He's a big fat liar." Now, Caleb, thrown off by this, tries to get out of her what she's talking about, but all she'll say is that he lies about everything and to keep his head down, while dealing with it. And then the power goes back on and she acts like nothing happened. Now, it's important to note that there are cameras all over this place, and especially in Ava's enclosure, and Nathan is always watching, despite the reports that Caleb is giving him after every session. But after the power outage thing, Nathan presumably has not seen what happened. So, of course, he asks Caleb later what was discussed during that time. Now, this is really the first time that Caleb's initial wariness coming into this starts to, really be confirmed at this point. Like up until now, he's kind of been going along with this whole thing, even Nathan's eccentricities, because scientifically speaking, this is pretty cool. I mean, he naturally wants to be on the ground floor of this kind of innovation. But all that being said, Caleb's internal alarm has been going off this whole time with this guy. And I mean, yeah, he says at the beginning, hey, let's be friends instead of having a boss employee relationship and that whole thing with being locked in when the power's out and having a direct feed to Ava in your bedroom and having an actual what actually appears to be an enslaved woman in my house walking around. Yeah, just ignore all that because science. And now that Caleb is being questioned about what Nathan might have missed during that power outage, naturally Caleb he lies and says that nothing of any real importance happens. After that, Nathan shows Caleb his super secret lab where he created Ava. And Caleb's all like, whoa. Okay, so the next session with Ava, she decides to wear a dress from her wardrobe, complete with a Party City wash and go. This makes her appear more human and makes Caleb more endeared towards her. I know, that seems like nothing. It's important. We'll get to that. Now, after that happens, it becomes pretty clear that Caleb kind of digs Ava a little bit, and she digs him right back. And Caleb feels some type of way about that. He asks Nathan if he deliberately designed her to have a crush on him. And Nathan is like, no. He basically tells Caleb that if she's exhibiting attraction to him, then it's significant, but not because he programmed it that way. And honestly, the scientist in my brain is weirdly with Nathan on this. I mean, for what it's worth, it's a pretty significant thing if we're looking at consciousness in a computer. Having the ability to have a crush on somebody is a significant step towards sentience. And Nathan approaches it like, hey, you got to understand, she's never been around any other man except for me, so it's understandable that she might have a crush on you. And he drives it home by going into this whole speech about intellect versus independent thought, using a Jackson Pollock painting. So, okay, by Caleb's next session with Ava, he makes it clear to her that he is there to test her for consciousness. And that is all. Don't get it twisted. There's nothing going on here. But this time, when the power goes out again, Caleb asks Ava what the hell she meant about not trusting Nathan. She repeats herself about him being a big fat liar, and Caleb asks her how she's sure that they're not being watched, even with the power being out. I mean, Nathan might be doing the power outage thing himself just to see how they would react. And that's when she tells him that she's the one causing the power outages. See, Ava has figured out that when she charges herself, she can overload the system, which honestly, running everything back now, I feel like was a huge signal to Caleb about the events that happened after, but again, we'll get to that. So anyway, now Caleb is having all these fantasies about running away with Ava, and that's made worse by Caleb just happening to see Nathan going into Ava's enclosure from his little Ava cam in his bedroom. What he sees is Nathan kind of berating Ava. Now he can't hear the conversation, but what he sees looks pretty bad. He has an argument with her and he tears up one of the pictures and then he leaves. The pictures that she was drawing and showing Caleb during his sessions. Anyway, okay, so at this point, I imagine you can see where this story is going. Caleb is legit falling in love with Ava and has begun to fully distrust Nathan, especially after that whole display. Okay, so fun fact about Nathan. Nathan likes to drink a lot. Like, he's pretty much drunk for half the time that Caleb has been there. And one day, while they're talking and drinking, and Nathan drinks so much that he passes out, Caleb steals his badge and goes into his bedroom to snoop, where he finds out something that confirms all of his suspicions. You see, kids, if you give a tech bro enough money, he'll eventually invent something that he can abuse, destroy, or screw without fear of any consequences, legal or otherwise. When Caleb goes into his room, he finds Kamiko there, and then he finds a wall that's hiding several other lady robots. And surprise, surprise, one of those robots is indeed Kamiko. Caleb starts looking through Nathan's files and discovers that he's built these machines and put them through all sorts of cruel tests and experiments. Well, as far as Caleb's concerned, that won't do it all. So he returns the badge to a very, very drunk Nathan, and then he goes to see Ava. When the power goes out this time, he tells her, yo, we are breaking out of this place. Be ready. And here's his plan as he explains it to her. The next day, he's going to get Nathan drunk, which isn't a hard feat since he's been drinking this whole damn time. After he passes out, he's going to take his badge, and all she has to do is turn the power off at a certain time, and he will take care of the rest. Okay, so the next day comes, and Caleb gets right to his plan. It's the first thing in the morning, and he says, hey, Nathan, let's celebrate my last day here, and breaks out the alcohol. Only Nathan is like, nah, man, I'm good. I'm going to cleanse. And Nathan is like, but it's my last day here. Let's do it up. What's up, man? And Nathan is like, I'm not stopping you. Go ahead. I'm just going to drink some water. Caleb's like really confused and also kind of stalled. I mean, Ava's all set to drop the power at any moment. And 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 Nathan being drunk is key to his little plan. So what does he do now? Well, Nathan, seeing Caleb floundering, lets him off the hook and says, "Hey, so I know you're planning on stealing my badge, and I know you're going to try to help Ava escape and reprogram all my shit, and it's not going to happen. Nice try, though." And then he takes Caleb into his bedroom and plays for him the video of when he went into Ava's room and berated her and tore up her drawing. Only he shows her that when he was tearing up her drawing, he also planted a battery powered camera. So, yeah, Nathan saw the whole conversation between Caleb and Ava about the jailbreak. And also, it's around then that he tells Caleb that he didn't actually randomly win the contest for the job. See, Nathan had been spying on Caleb's internet usage for some time and selected him based on his search engine choices. What's really creepy about that is that we're not even talking about things like what kind of movies he likes or his Amazon orders. We're talking about things like the kind of porn he watches and all the things that would clue Nathan in on the type of woman that he would be into. That's right, people. Nathan set Caleb up from the very beginning. You see, he was trying to see if he could trigger a response out of Ava, like, say, falling in love. And that would prove some kind of degree of consciousness, you see. Yeah, it leaves kind of an oily penny taste in your mouth, doesn't it? Certainly does for Caleb. Okay, so Ava's not aware of any of this. So when the power goes out right on schedule, they're locked in to Nathan's bedroom. And sitting there during the lockdown, Nathan turns to Caleb and say, how exactly was this plan supposed to work? Anyway, I mean, the power's out. So we ain't going nowhere, no way. Well, Caleb explains that when the power went out, he was going to reprogram the system to open the doors instead of locking them. And Nathan's like, wow, that's a pretty good plan. That actually might have worked. And then Caleb pulls an Uno reverse and says, well, we're about to find out because I did that shit last night when you was passed out. Nathan turns to look at his AvaCam screens and she's gone. Gone. Out of her control. She is like a fart in the wind. She is gone. He switches around the screens and eventually finds her in one of the main hallways. And then he does what any reasonable person would do and grabs a weapon. Because Ava hasn't shown any sign of aggression whatsoever. Anyway, he rushes to try to stop her and ends up confronting her in that main hallway, and she, with Kamiko's help, whoops his ass. Now, as fun as this movie has been so far, here's where it gets really interesting. She goes into Nathan's room where Caleb is, and she asks him to stay right where he is, which he does. And then she goes to where all the robot bodies are and takes parts and skins and stuff and uses them to repair herself from the fight with Nathan. And also gives herself a little makeover. There also happens to be clothes there, so she puts those on, and before you know it, she looks completely human. And then she and Caleb run off together and live happily ever after, is what I would say if this were a different kind of movie. But as I said earlier, roll the clip. Conceptually, however, it does do all the things that horror movies tend to do, like subverting ideas and concepts that we've all accepted in society, and then takes those ideas and brings them right around front in all of its naked and horrifying beautiful glory. So after Ava is all humanized, she leaves Caleb in the room, locks the door behind her so he can't get out, and then she leaves the compound. But wait, what about Caleb? He helped her. Why would she leave him locked up in a compound out in the middle of nowhere? Doesn't she love him?
You sweet summer child, you babe swaddled in the cashmere blanket of ignorance.
You see, Nathan kind of explained it earlier in the movie. He more or less said that if Ava starts to develop consciousness, then that means she could develop autonomy. And if she has autonomy, then she would realize that being kept in captivity all this time was bullshit and start to plan an escape any way she could. And that means that it's possible that she could decide to play Caleb to get exactly the thing that she wants. Freedom. Yeah, that's just what happens. Ava played the hell out of her captors and legit led them both on. And now she's just out there in the world. And that's it. That's the movie, folks. And you know, the thing about this ending is that I am a scientific thinker. Fundamentally speaking, I like how science moves. If you want to find out how a thing works, you do experiments. If you want to know if the thing that you built works exactly how you intended it to, well, you have to do experiments first. And let me preface everything I'm about to say by saying that I don't approve of Nathan as a person. He's just the kind of turd who, if he wasn't doing this, he'd be looks maxing and roofing women at parties. But that said, the scientist in me unfortunately gets what he was trying to do. It's like this asshole, you know? We all know who this asshole is, right? Okay, so for the non-anime watchers, this is a character from Full Metal Alchemist. His name was Shao Tucker. To make a very long, very sad story short, he was a guy that had a cute little daughter and a big fluffy dog. He also was a scientist who was trying to create a chimera. And spoiler alert, he actually does eventually do that. And you know, as objectively horrible as that is, that was only an early product of his experimentation. Had this soulless bastard been able to continue with his work, he might have gotten here eventually, which, as I understand it, is the kind of thing that has its own corner in certain parts of the internet that I know that a lot of you little perverty, pervy people like to get into. And don't look at me crazy. I know what's in some of y'all search histories, you nasties. The point is, sometimes scientists do terrible, unethical, unimaginably horrible things. Um, but later, that horrific thing that they did ends up making advancements in the cure for cancer or a diagnosis for a neurodivergent disorder or the cure for erectile dysfunction. That last one, actually, it was kind of an accident. Fun fact. Sildenafil, or Viagra, as you all know it, came about because some dudes were getting hard-ons during experiments with medications for high blood pressure, which is why you're not supposed to take it if you have issues with low blood pressure, because it might turn you into a different kind of stiff. And in the case of Ex Machina, Nathan, in all of his twisted, sexist, misogynistic practices, and they were sexist and misogynistic, by the way. I mean, consider that every android that he created was a beautiful woman instead of, well, literally anything else. I mean, he could have made sentient hermit crabs or cats or even other dudes, but no, he decided to make supermodels that he could fuck. But even in that warped mindset, what he was ultimately trying to do was create a being with independent consciousness who would be able to not only make independent decisions, but make them with their own best interests in mind. And tell me that's not exactly what happened. Ava planned her own escape by manipulating the emotions and actions of the humans that she encountered, and she did it with a plan she devised all on her own. And Nathan got exactly what he deserved. One could say that he was asking for it. And before you go, oh, poor Caleb, yeah, don't forget, she left him alive. So she liked him. Yeah, 11 out of 10, this one. Fan-fucking-tastic movie. And that is this week's video essay. Thank you so much for listening to me rant for a little bit. I post generally every 2 weeks, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you'll be the first to see my next post. With that said, see you next time. Bye.